road has cleared. Looking at about 50 minutes from 390 to downtown. Inbound Stevenson, 50 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Farther south, crash northbound I-55 near I-80. Inbound Ryan, 30 minutes, 95th to downtown. Southbound Lakeshore Drive, it's stop and go Montrose to North Avenue. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, and in our 1 hour heating and air conditioning weather center. Passing morning shower, otherwise cloudy and 53 today, 38 at O'Hare. Next news at 8, Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. All right, profiling the 14th Congressional District and some of the leading candidates running for the Republican nomination to face Lauren Underwood in a seat really that needs to be taken back if you're going to take back the suburban seats and take back the House and make Kevin McCarthy the Speaker if you're a Republican. And the candidates we've spoken with are all Republicans. Ted Grottle, Catalina Lauf, and now Jim Oberweis, who is a sitting state senator. Of course, the owner of Oberweis Dairy, and a congressional candidate again in the 14th. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Glad to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. And so tell us, that one of the criticisms that you do receive, as you well know, is you've run many times for office. You ran successfully for state senate. You've run for Congress a couple of times, and that hasn't worked out. Isn't it time to give way to somebody new to give them a try at this?
Dan, realize that no true conservative has won statewide in Illinois for 20 years. I think Peter Fitzgerald was really the last one. When people called on me and asked me to serve our party and serve our state by running against Dick Durbin, I knew it was a very difficult task, but I accepted the challenge to do the best I could for our party to help down ballot candidates. And in fact, 6 years ago against Dick Durbin, I gave him the closest race he's ever had in his entire Senate career. And he outspent me $12.5 million to $2.5 million. And in fact, in the 14th Congressional District, I beat Durbin in every single county. So in the 14th. So look, it's challenging to run statewide in Illinois. In 2008, it's true I did lose a congressional race, but guess what? That was in the prime peak of Barack Obama in Illinois, and every single special election that occurred that year in Republican districts, every Republican lost.
And you certainly lead with name recognition, in this race, but they keep, the ads that keep playing, and some here, even on our station, say that you're an anti-Trumper. Is that true?
That's ridiculous. Look, I agree with the First Lady. I believe that his policies are terrific, but I do think he tweets too much. And sometimes his tone is not exactly what I would do. But my gosh, the policies that he's expressed are those that I've been expressing for many years. Border security? Come on. I'm the one who blew the whistle on the cost to taxpayers of illegal immigration 12 or 15 years ago. Bring down drug costs? I'm the one who's been proposing allowing the reimportation of American-made drugs from Canada for 12 years. And the president has picked up that policy, which I think is terrific, allowing for more competition in medical services by allowing interstate sales of insurance policies. I've been calling for that for a decade as well. So, and the appointment of the judges has been fantastic. I have trouble finding policies of the president I disagree with, except I believe that we need to get better control of our runaway spending at the federal level, and I think the president's been focused on other things rather than that. Although he started to talk about that as a potential focus in the future.
How would you assess President Trump and Vice President Pence's handling of the coronavirus outbreak thus far, and from the people that you've talked to, medical experts, I mean, is there anything you would recommend doing that isn't being done? Dan,
this is a very, very difficult situation. We don't know how far this is going to go. We don't know how much it's going to expand. So far, obviously, this has been less serious than the flu in terms of cases, in terms of people who have suffered from it, in terms of deaths. But what we don't know is where this stops, how far this goes. I'm not an expert in that area. I think we have to rely on our medical care professionals. I think for the most part the president is doing that. I think we need to focus on this as a medical problem more than a financial problem. Although it's causing financial problems, I don't think the government's role is to step in and try to solve everybody who might have a financial problem as a result of this. Now, clearly, if you're in the travel industry, the hotel business, or
cruise ships.
Cruise ships, yes, that's a disaster. And even airlines. I mean, these are drastically affected, but I don't think it's the government's role to step in to protect them.
So you're not in favor of what President Trump said the other day, which is nobody will miss a paycheck, talking about subsidizing hourly wage earners, as well as potentially bailing out particular industries, as well as cutting the payroll tax, as well as trying to drive the interest rate to zero, as far as I can tell, and encouraging quantitative easing. Are you in favor of any of those things?
Dan, I'm sure the president is under enormous political pressure to do something. No matter what he does, the Democrats are already making a political case out of this. I mean, for heaven's sakes, he was ahead of his time. He took bold steps to limit people coming in from China. He got criticized for doing that, even though he took early action on it. It was the right thing to do. Things like cutting the payroll tax, and I have real concern about that. Our Social Security system is financially unsound already. That would just make it that much worse. So, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Some of these other things that you're talking about there are certainly being discussed, and they may sound good from a political standpoint, but I'm afraid that in the long run they will lead to greater problems. We have to realize this country has $23 trillion of debt currently, and that's a number that's so hard, it's almost impossible to understand. We can't allow that to continue growing. We're really stealing from the future of our children and our grandchildren when we do that.
Let's go back to politics a little bit here in this race, because sort of the question of electability is a big one for all the candidates, and particularly you, because of your previous history. And so why not? Why are you more electable, I should say, against Lauren Underwood than a fresh face like Catalina Lauf or a fresh face like Ted Grottle coming in from the outside like you once did?
Well, look, I have 40 years of very successful business experience. I started Oberweis Asset Management with one employee, me, and built it to $1 billion under management before turning it over to my son, Jim. I've grown up in the dairy business, but I had an older brother who went into that business. I didn't expect to be in that business, but then when he had a stroke, I ended up buying the business rather than seeing a family business liquidated. At that time, it had about 50 employees and one ice cream store. Today, we have over 1,200 employees and 43 ice cream stores. I understand what it takes to encourage entrepreneurs to risk their time, their energy, and their capital to create jobs and opportunities for other people. I've done it. I know what it takes to do that. On top of that, I have the legislative experience of serving 7 years in the Illinois Senate and knowing what it takes to work across the aisle to try to get together in a minority position, a vast minority position, to accomplish things. And just to give you an example, a proposal to increase the speed limit on our interstate highways to 70 from 65 was defeated 4 times before I was elected to the Illinois Senate. I managed to work across the aisle on a non-economic issue, the speed limit, and actually get it passed. It was the right thing for our country. It actually has driven down deaths on a per-mile traveled basis, because when you have great variability in speed limits, that causes more accidents. More consistent traffic flow causes fewer accidents. So we did the right thing.
Happy about the speed limit. But before you leave the state Senate, you think you can just get a little bit of an incremental increase to about 110 for me.
No.
Just a little
the
bit of
Dan
a-
Prof law?
Yeah.
You can author the bill and then pass
you
it.
can name it after me. I think
the
that would be
Profster,
fitting.
yeah.
Also, just on the dairy business, just trying to check some boxes here. Have there been any Joaquin Phoenix sightings at your dairies trying to steal your cows and set them free?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay,
No.
all right.
Actually,
Just checking on that. Yeah.
Any milk protesters, dairy protesters?
Well,
that you
sure,
think?
like,
'cause
from
remember
Hollywood,
They'll
yeah.
storm a stage at a Bernie rally.
No
so,
question.
and realize we're the only ones who put milk in environmentally friendly returnable glass bottles, which is good for the
yes.
environment.
Oh.
And
I'm very
the
familiar
one
with
thing I
their
didn't
trucks
quite
early in
finish-
the morning.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
The one thing I didn't quite finish when you asked me about why am I the most successful or most likely to beat Underwood, I'm the only one of these candidates who truly has business experience and legislative experience who lives in the district. Realistically, the main competition for me is my fellow state senator, Sue Rezin. She lives south of I-80, more than 100 miles from some of the people in her district. If she wants to be a congresswoman, she should run in her district, not in this district where she doesn't live, doesn't vote, and doesn't know the people.
And I suspect that Sue Resin's campaign or campaign supporters are behind some of the attacks on you. We raised this issue with Ted Grottle, but the association of you with Madigan that's being made, and the resuscitating of some of the misstatements you've made in campaigns long since past. How do you respond to those attacks?
Dan, this campaign has been the most unbelievable that I have ever experienced. The baseless accusations in the last days of a campaign, trying to distance her from her record of 3 tax increases that she voted for in the last 12 months, and the fact that she doesn't live in the district. I mean, it is horrendous. There's $1.5 million being spent in attack ads against me in the last 2 weeks of this campaign. I've never seen or experienced anything like it. It is just wrong. That shouldn't happen. I never expected it to happen in a Republican primary, but here we are, and it's really a shame because what we're doing is helping Underwood. The whole goal of this campaign should be to work together to find the candidate best able to defeat Lauren Underwood. That's what it should be about, not about attacking each other.
And if you win or lose, are you full? I mean, obviously, if you win, you're going to support yourself. If you lose, are you going to fold in? Or are we going to have a united front against Lauren Underwood, regardless of the victor here, as far as you're concerned?
I strongly hope that we have a united front. And let me just tell you very quickly, I got a piece from a sermon in our church at St. Catherine Drexel about 2 weeks ago, and it went something like this. When someone does something against you or that you don't like, write it down in the sand, because over time, wind and water will wash it away. When someone does something that you like, something to help you, write it down in rock and stone, because it will last for a long time. I think that's great advice for a Republican Party. I hope we can follow it.
I guess I'm going to have to get rid of my enemies list if I'm going to follow that parable. Jim Oberweis, and by the way,
we should mention that Sue Rezin
she was
refused to come on the
invited.
show.
She was invited. She did decline to come on the show, and maybe it's about some of the things Jim said. Maybe it's also about
where she lives.
Her vote for ERA too, which I find perhaps the most objectionable thing she's done as state senator. But she didn't want to respond to that, so she doesn't have to. Not to us, at least, but to the voters. Jim Oberweis, state senator, 25th District, owner of Oberweis Dairy, congressional candidate in the 14th Republican ballot on Tuesday. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Good luck.
Yep. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following is a paid political announcement.
A former Notre Dame kicker, Ted Grottle, hits the mark every time. Grottle's a successful businessman and has never run for office like President Trump, so he isn't owned by insiders and lobbyists. Ted Grottle wants to break up Mike Madigan's and Governor Pritzker's political machine that's ruining our state. Ted Grottle supports freezing Illinois' property taxes and cutting gas taxes. And in Congress, Ted Grottle wants to make the Trump tax cuts permanent, build the border wall, and pass term limits to kick career politicians out in both parties. It takes a conservative outsider businessman like Ted Grottle to help President Trump. Join Ted Brottle's team. Give corrupt politics and liberal elites the boot. And give America the win.
I'm Ted Grottle, and I approve this message because I kicked footballs in college, and I'll kick tails in Congress.
Trump Republican, conservative businessman. Ted Grottle for Congress. Paid for by Ted Grottle for Congress.
Yeah, now let's kick the common flu and common cold to the side. And how to do that is to boost your immune system. And you can do that by sleeping well and eating well. And that means getting enough fruits and veggies in your diet, which you have to admit you aren't doing enough of on your own. And that's